It's the Sports Peninsula podcast coming up. We're continuing our coverage of the draft prospects for the upcoming 2025 NFL Draft being held in Green Bay this April. In this episode, we're discussing the prospects at cornerback. This is one of the skill positions on the defensive side of the football, and this year's class is once again deep with star potential. The Detroit Lions drafted a cornerback in each of the first 2 rounds last year, but that may not prevent them from looking at this group at some point in the draft. We'll take a look at the top 20 prospects on our board and break down the top 8 next. Now, here is your Sports Peninsula team. Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is Dave Jasinski Drew. I'm joined by Coach Andy Shield. Coach, how you feeling, brother?
Doing well, Drew. Doing well. Feeling good. We had a good opening day here, and here we go. Spring hopes eternal, or whatever. Something like that nature is the old statement. But yeah, looking forward to things. And we were just talking. We're going to do some safeties here in a few moments. Then we got QBs, and then we got the mock draft. So the time is about upon us here. The stage is probably being set in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and we'll talk about what that's going to be like, because that was just such a marvelous event last year. Probably one of the neatest things I have ever done was the NFL draft experience here in Detroit last year in 2024. But on with the safeties, Drew. How are you doing, sir?
Well, we're good. We're actually
on tonight. We got some Pistons basketball with the Toronto Raptors. We got some Red Wings hockey with the Montreal Canadiens, and the Michigan Panthers are taking on the Birmingham Stallions over at Ford Field. So I know this is a taped show, but all sorts of sports going on as we speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we got the corners today we're covering, then we got safeties next week, and then the quarterbacks, like you said, and then the mock draft, because that happens only a few days before the actual draft. So, yeah, looking forward to this. Looking forward to covering the corners. It's always a deep group. But before we jump into that, I mentioned in the intro the Lions might look at this group, but I just never rule it out, Coach. I don't see how they really can. They signed DJ Reed. They have Terrion Arnold, Amik Robertson, and Rakestraw. They get Dorsey back. They get Maddox from the Eagles, who's definitely going to compete. That's a pretty full room and pretty talented group. What do you think?
Rocky Sin too.
Rocky Sin, yeah. Exactly.
So it does kind of appear that the bell's been answered there in regards to it. Could have been seen as a foreseeable need before Rocky Sin and Avonte Maddox's signings. I think you could. Mm-hmm. Will they add corners? There's going to be rookie corners that are on this roster competing during training camp in the preseason. Will they draft a corner? I think we're going to be talking about that position next week when we talk about the safeties.
Yeah.
And I misspoke. I got a little ahead of myself. Yeah, it's corners today, mm-hmm. Safeties next week. But I think that is the defensive back position we might be looking at a little bit more than this one. But there are some intriguing prospects. If we did, I think it would be something that we talk about in the latter part of today. Mm-hmm. But and not so much at the top end. But there's is this the most talented cornerback position? Well, at the top, you've got a very intriguing prospect. But there's some fine ones here, and I think some guys that we're going to talk about, they're day 1 and 2 locks.
I agree. Let's get to it, Coach. Let's take a look at our top 20.
We're looking at Elijah Hustle out of North Carolina at 20. Moving over to 18 or 19 is Tommy Hill of Nebraska. At 18, O'Donnell Fortune out of South Carolina. That is somebody that the Lions, I believe, have tracked a little bit as a day 3 UDFA type player. Not likely a UDFA if he's 18th on the Sports Peninsula podcast Cornerback Countdown. Quincy Riley, and at 17 out of Louisville. At 16 is a guy that will be featured as a dark horse, Mr. Noel Williams, and that is somebody that has been talked about as a target the Lions may be interested in, and there's a lot of reason why. You're going to be talking about him later, Drew. At 15, got one of 2 Kansas Jayhawks here. We've got Mello Dotson, and we have Kobe Bryant. No relation or correlation to the late, great Kobe Bryant of basketball fame, but 2 Kansas Jayhawks in at 15 and 14. At 13 is Dorian Strong out of Virginia Tech. Another one of our dark horses here At 12 is Denzel Burke out of Ohio State, a guy that if he probably went out last year, may have been one of those, a borderline first-day draft pick. In at 11 is Zy Alexander out of LSU, another potential Lion target. Into the top 10, Jacob Parrish out of Kansas State. And at 9 is Darian Porter out of Iowa State. These are all guys probably we're talking about locks in the day two. Into the featured category is Azariah Thomas out of Florida State is our number 8 corner. At 7 is Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame. A local product out of West Bloomfield High School, Maxwell Harrison out of Kentucky, in at 6. At 5 is Trey Amos out of Ole Miss. 4, Siobhan Ravel Jr., real interesting prospect out of East Carolina. At number 3, haven't talked about too many Texas Longhorns yet this year, Drew. Seems like we've always had a Texas Longhorn or two in our top 8. This is Jahdae Barron, the cornerback for the Longhorns. Another local product, a true local product, Grosse Pointe South's own and the University of Michigan's national champion corner, Will Johnson, is our number 2 corner. And in at number 1, perhaps the featured player in this draft. We talked about him as really the best wide receiver in the draft last year. We'll get to that a little bit here in a few minutes, but he's also the number 1 corner in this draft, and that's Travis Hunter out of Colorado, Drew.
Yeah, he is. I would say obviously like Deion Sanders played 2 sports, and Brian,
Brian Jordan?
Brian Jordan, yes, from the thank you. I'm losing my mind here, from the Falcons, played for the Braves as well as a damn good baseball player. Bo Jackson. So 2 sports had been done, but the 2 position, and 2 sides of the ball. We've had corners and receivers and running backs who are kick return or punt return extraordinaires. That we see that a lot, but not necessarily a defensive player and an offensive player at 2 sides of the football. That's not. You're going back to the yesteryear.
Well, yeah, to see the full-time guys, and this league is far too physical, and we'll get into why that would not be probably possible for Travis Hunter. But you had guys like Deion Sanders, you've had guys like Charles Woodson, a little bit. Deion did it a little bit more at the NFL level.
Yeah.
But Charles did. Woodson did it a little bit at the beginning of his career. Play a little bit of offense as well, and certainly in college, like Travis Hunter did. Travis Hunter it seems like he is a primary cornerback, with the ability to also give some reps as a wide receiver, and that could be something that he transitions to later in his career. Maybe he kind of flips it a little bit, but he is a dynamic prospect, Drew. And a guy that I'm really looking forward to kind of featuring both as a corner and wide receiver today.
Well, let's jump into that, Coach. Let's talk about, just basically his bio right now. Let's sort of walk him through, and then we'll talk about him at each position.
Well, I'll tell you what, you got a wide receiver cornerback out of the University of Colorado, 6'1", 185 junior, from Sewanee, Georgia. He was a perfect rated 5-star in high school. Okay, so he was evaluated, and he checked every single box. When you're getting evaluated on offense and defense, it's a little bit easier, but he's not the only one being evaluated on offense and defense. There's a ton of prospects that are. He was a perfect rated one. He was a guy that followed Coach Prime originally in the first wave of Coach Prime's career to Jackson State, and he transferred from Jackson State, just played there 1 year. 4.4 40, 2-way star at wide receiver and corner. He was the 2024 Heisman Trophy winner, Walter Camp Player of the Year, Bednarik Award winner, Bolitnikoff Award winner, Hornig Trophy Award winner, AP Player of the Year, and there are other awards. Travis Hunter was the top player in college football, and it goes without saying in regards to his individual contribution to the game. 2-time All-American at Colorado, 2024 All-Big 12 player, 2023 All-Pac-12 player, 149 career receptions and 19 total touchdowns on offense, 8 career interceptions and 29 career pass breakups on defense. This is an exceptional football player, Drew, one of which, like, we have never covered and Sports Peninsular Podcast Draft Previews. We've never talked about a guy like this.
No, definitely not. And so let's talk about his strengths right now, Coach. I'll jump into that at receiver. As a wide receiver, what do we see as his strengths? Well, Travis Hunter doesn't drop the football. A 1.5% drop rate, outstanding. He's a ferocious competitor for the ball, 50-50 balls. He's not huge. He's 6'1", 185, but athletic as hell and determined. Very good football player. Alignment versatile. He can be in the slot, X or the Y, doesn't matter. He can do everything you ask of him as a receiver. Tremendous in contested catch situations. We illustrate that there in the picture you're seeing now, and what I talked about too, those 50-50 balls. He's a yak machine. I mean, you give him any space and he's going to get you. I mean, he's that dynamic. He's a big-time ball tracker and deep ball threat. He could become a full-time wide receiver as his career progresses. It's just how good he is. Coach, I obviously we know that there's some issues that he's going to have to work on and some but let's talk about those.
Well, probably his biggest issue is he's a defensive back. His day job is at corner, so he's going to have to learn and master that, and he's going to be going against the best route runners and the most technical wide receivers this game has to offer, with the highest degree of athletic ability as well. So I mean, that is no walk in the park. These aren't, and I'm not trying to make light of anybody, and I'm not poking at any school, but this isn't going to be Oklahoma State's wide receiver crew. Or this isn't going to be, Washington State's wide receivers rolling in here. These are going to be, the Jets, the Lions, the Cowboys, the Rams, the Texans. We're talking about the real deal here. And is he going to have the time to really even focus that wide receiver much, other than being maybe a trick pony in a sub package or somewhere? That's a question that's going to present itself someday. Like his DB technique, he can be a little too reliant on Travis Hunter, and he needs to become a more technical route runner. So when's he going to put this time in? And he's a relentless competitor and a guy that really does buy time. He is a football fanatic, but he's got to put some time in to really be a masterful enough player to even be out there as an NFL wide receiver. He's going to have to embrace being a blocker. Yeah. Or else it's just not, he might as well get back on the defensive side and just really start to focus there. And that's something he didn't show a lot of in Colorado. They played through him a lot. And, I think he would kind of, run guys off and kind of run out of the play a little bit and get out of the way in the run. Going to need him to block. Yeah. Can he hold up physically? He's 6'1", 185. That's going to go up. That's got to go up. Yeah. He's got to get what they call pro strong. And we've talked about that quite a bit with a lot of different players. And will he really play both ways? We may be talking for nothing here. Mm-hmm. Which side of the ball is he most suited for at the NFL level? I think it's going to be the one we're going to talk about here next, which is corner, personally. But, with that being said, he has the ability to be the best wide receiver in this draft class. Yeah. If he puts the focus on it, he definitely would be. He's that more nuanced of a player. That may not come ever, or it may come 5 years from now or 7 years from now if he'd make a full-time transition. But I think we're talking about a cornerback first here, Drew.
Yeah, I agree, Coach. And let's talk about that. And I'll talk about what we like starting off the bat here at cornerback. And he's just a twitchy and explosive player. He's fluid and he's creative as a mover. I don't want to go over the top with his athleticism. He's a tremendous athlete. You can't do what he did in college, playing receiver and cornerback, and not be absolute warrior. And perhaps the most competitively tough player in the draft, which really is what surprised me. That, to your point, Coach, didn't show it on tape being an effective blocker as a receiver. He's a pretty physical guy. So I think that if he were to transfer over to a receiver, he'd learn that quickly, and I think he'd embrace it. But as of now, though, we don't see it. So that would be a red flag, certainly on a team like the Lions, right? I mean, you better block. JMO blocks, everybody blocks. So he'll get it. But yeah, it's not there on tape. He's violent and efficient as a tackler. He missed less than 10 tackles in his career. So think about it again, a 1.5% drop rate only, and only technically 10 missed tackles in his career. Outstanding. That's outstanding.
2% left rate or some 1%
Yeah,
left rate.
1.5. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, tremendous. He understands routes. He's tremendous at understanding because he's got that football IQ. Being a receiver, he absolutely knows the nuances of the position, and it served him well. He understands, and he's got great ball skills. He's a high-level football thinker and processor. He's got a high IQ, unbelievable, relentless physical condition. He's outstanding in press man coverage. A 59.1 career QB rating against him. Coach, I mean, lots to like about Travis Hunter, but what do you see that he needs to work on?
Well, I think some of it is probably the inevitable and maybe the most obvious is that, he's a young man and he's, 185-pound kid that is, he's a young man, but he's not quite fully grown yet. And he's going to put on that pro mass and strength and bulk up, at least 10 pounds, I'm guessing, that maybe even towards 15, because I think the bigger receivers could push him around a little bit. Mm-hmm. Just in working off of his press and, oh boy, now he's got to recover and trail and track. He is smaller framed. That's something that, he will fight, but he'll acclimate to as well. It's ultimately not going to be a deterrent in regards to Travis Hunter. He's definitely better in man coverage than he is in zone. And I think every guy, we're going to talk about a lot of different players, and some are going to be more comfortable in zone than they are in man. Some are going to be more comfortable in man than they are in zone. He's more of a man guy. That's more popular at the NFL level as it is. But, some zone technique is going to be something he's going to have to adapt to. Yeah. He's very reliant on his athleticism. We talked about that as a potential weakness as a receiver, and it's going to be at times a detriment to him as a corner. He's playing against some high-level athletes, and that is going to have to be something he's got to work through. Yeah, he really needs to embrace the technical side of defensive back play. He really, really does, and that's got to come first before he's going to be talking about any kind of wide receiver, time, or let's go be a wide receiver and let's not play games at corner. He has got to become a master of the craft of playing defensive back at the NFL level. Get a little turned around against the elite route runners, and boy, if that was ever an issue for him throughout his college career, he's going to be facing that on a daily basis. Got to get pro strong. If we want to nitpick and really and create a criticism of Travis Hunter, it's some of these obvious things that are very, very workable and teachable, and things that he already knows about himself and that he's going to probably work through. Yeah. This is a pure form top 5 pick. It's a pure form top probably 4 or 3 pick. And I probably the home run of this draft cycle in my mind probably runs through Travis Hunter. And I know he's so highlighted, but I just think you've got such a moldable piece of clay here, Drew, of a football player that is absolutely a warrior and gives you everything he's got out there. This is the man right here. Absolutely. I mean, kudos to your coverage on Travis Hunter, Coach, as well, because there was a lot of work done here. But fantastic football player. And, and surprisingly, definitely top 5, no question. Top 4, I would definitely agree. Truly the best player in the draft, though. There's no doubt about that. If it was just based on the best football player in the draft, it's Travis Hunter. But there's some teams at the top of the board that have different needs, and that's, we'll talk about that in the next couple of weeks. But let's get to the number 2 prospect, Will Johnson, the cornerback from the University of Michigan here in Ann Arbor, 6'2", 202-pound junior, our number 2 prospect. He's a 5-star Detroit native out of Grosse Pointe South High School. He was part of that national championship team in 2023-24, ran a 4.39 40. He's a 2-time All-American, 2-time All-Big Ten player. He's the 2022 Freshman All-American. He had 9 career interceptions, 3 career defensive touchdowns, and only a 50 career quarterback rating against. Will Johnson is a tremendous football player. Coach, what do you like about him? He's a special one to us. This is my it was pretty much, about 5 years ago, right around now, in a snowy, early spring track meet at Eisenhower High School. Grosse Pointe South rolled in, and a young freshman named David Shield was running the 4x2 right alongside Mr. Will Johnson of Grosse Pointe South. So it was his first competition. They were lane to lane from each other. It was kind of fun to see that one. One was a little bigger than the other, but this is an exceptional athlete, Drew, and he did things right away in Ann Arbor, and was in a featured player and a starter as a true freshman, and a guy making a ton of plays, and a guy that did a lot of things through his career there. He is a top of the class football processor. He is an outstanding football IQ guy, triggers and processes phenomenally. He's got great size, 6'2", 6'2", 200. Just a specimen physically. He's excellent at leveraging the sideline, and that's something where I've learned a little bit that is definitely a man coverage skill, is being able to run feet and always maintain inside control to force a receiver towards the sideline. That's called leveraging the sideline. He's exceptional at it. That is something that I've seen good coaches be able to teach defensive backs how to do, that is to work that receiver towards the sideline. That's called leveraging the sideline. Will Johnson's outstanding at it. He's a very physical downhill tackler. He gets after it. He is not afraid. You weren't going to be recruited to play defense here at the University of Michigan in this last era of football and not be an exceptional tackler, regardless of position you play on defense. He fits that pedigree without a doubt. Very comfortable and patient in man coverage. He's a man cover corner, a guy that's a man first type corner. Elite ball skills. I mean, he can jump routes with precision. Was real successful at it. Made a lot of big plays in big games for the Wolverines in doing that. Real tough physical press man cover. He's scheme versatile. He can play you some zone. Really a lot through the cycle for the longest time. Before Travis Hunter truly emerged as a preeminent corner, this was the number one guy on most lists, Drew. Faded away a little bit as the Michigan season this past year didn't start the way they wanted to. It certainly ended it that way. But what are some things, Will Johnson, that also probably drifted him down into 2 and a little bit further down the draft board?
Yeah, great segue into that, Coach, because he can guess and gamble for picks a little bit. He's a high roller out there, and the whiff rate on tackles shows that 20.8%. Gambles a lot. Some great cornerbacks have been able to do it. Will Johnson has all the physical skills, and he's shown he's been able to do it at a very high level in Ann Arbor. But wow, that's got to tighten up. There's no question that's a concern. He became more linear and less fluid as his career progressed at Michigan. And I guess, Coach, amplify on that a little bit. What we're talking about here, because help the viewers out.
Without saying it, but I'm gonna just say it. It appears almost a more linear athlete is typically a little stiffer hipped and not as fluid of a mover. They have tremendous explosion and torque and get off. And it's not that they can't change direction, but they cannot change direction as on the dime fluid in a fluid matter as maybe more fluid, creative, loose-hipped athlete. So he has that. He can turn his hips and do some different things, but he's gotten bigger through the years. And that is something that is on the radar.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and thank you for that, Coach. And really, Johnson does. Here's another issue too: clutching and grabbing a little bit as the battles progress down the field. I think that's more of a situation. He's got to really trust that he can run. We saw that with Terrion Arnold this year with the Lions at first. Got really grabby downfield and really didn't have to be. And then, and that improved over time as the season progressed and he got a lot better. So I see the same thing with Will Johnson here as well. He needs to become a press man machine in the NFL. He's very good at it, and he's shown that in Michigan, but that's got to be his absolute bread and butter. You got to play some zone, no question. But playing man is what's going to get you in day one, and no question in the NFL. And will tackling be an issue for him? Well, I think it's more. it shouldn't be, but the gambling part of his game is what's the concern there, coach, and then that's what puts him out of position. So, I do see Will Johnson as a day one guy, and likely in the teens to maybe 20. I don't know how you see him yet, but I'd talk about that.
I think he's a lock. Probably he's definitely a lock top 20. I think he's a lock top 15 personally, and I think he's even a possible still top 10. We're talking about a guy that early in the draft cycle we were talking about a lock top 7-5 pick, and that's still certainly a possibility here. He didn't play a lot towards he got a little bit of an injury, and he didn't play a lot towards the end of the year. He didn't play against Ohio State, didn't play against Alabama. He didn't play in either one of those games for Michigan. He didn't do a lot at the combine or in the pro day. It's been kind of a while since Will Johnson's put himself out there a little bit. So I think there are some enigmatic, I wouldn't say concerns, but maybe, kind of just some low brow right now as to what's going on there a little bit. With also what we, was noticed by a lot of other scouts and what we've mentioned here just in the last few minutes. I see a top 15 pick. I think this is a guy that is a Terrion Arnold level corner and in the making. And a guy that's a good draft pick here.
Oh yeah. He's a very good football player. He's going to start immediately in the NFL. Who we got number 3, coach?
We've got Jahdae Barron out of University of Texas, 5'11", 200-pound senior at number 3. He's an Austin native, so he stayed right at home. 4.39 40, 1.50 split, 10-yard split. So this guy's a bullet. He is the 2024 Jim Thorpe Award winner. As the top defensive back in the country. 2024 All-American, 2024 All-SEC pick, and a 2-time All-Big 12 selection. Texas is another one of these schools that have jumped conferences. 227 career tackles. So this is a tackling machine as a corner. 19 and a half tackles for loss. So they had him buzzing around in the backfield. They were blitzing him. He was doing things, and he's real active in the run. Still had 8 career picks, 32 career pass breakups, and a 60.4 career quarterback rating. Jahdae Barron really had a nice career at the University of Texas, Drew.
Yeah, he certainly did, and there's a lot to like about Barron's game. When you talk, he's got big time ball skills, and he thrives on 50-50 balls. He likes that competition. He's not afraid of physicality, obviously, with that many tackles in his career. Excellent tackler for his size, being 5'11", but being 200 pounds. He's pretty rocked up, as you can see in the picture. He's a thicker guy, but he's not huge, but he's got the speed and he's got some pop. Tremendous football IQ, a very quick processor. He's very physical in press man coverage. He's excellent, really in really an elite cornerback in route recognition and attack. Phenomenal special teams player. And he has block punts to his credit. So he does it all over there at Texas, and likely that'll carry over in the NFL. One of the best slot corners in America. That's a huge plus for him, and a great blend of like instinct and technique. So he's a guy doesn't rely necessarily on the athleticism solely. He's got that technique too, and you got to have that for the NFL. Lots to like about Jahdae Barron, coach. What do you see he needs to work on?
Well, it's really where it's going to probably end up, pigeonholing him down the road. Anyway, he's a 5'11", corner that doesn't quite leverage the sideline like Will Johnson or Travis Hunter. He can get beat down he can get beat in that area and have to, recover and track. A guy like a J-Mo could really be a struggle cover for a Jahdae Barron. But there's remedies for that. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. He can get a little turned around with the really fluid, creative, route runners. We talked about that with Travis Hunter being something that he's going to have to work on. It's just a point of emphasis in Jahdae Barron's, workouts and skill prep is he's going to have to develop that and become a next level route, reader. Still missed, about 16.2% of the time. Even though he had 200, plus tackles, he still missed his fair share. He's 5'11", 200. He's going to come off a few tackles sometimes, but that's not going to be exclusive to him and the defensive backs. He will get a little over aggressive and kind of abandon his technique. And when you do that, that's when you clutch and grab and hold and interfere. So, that's something that, a lot of defensive backs, it's just a bad habit. he's going to have to work through. Smaller frame guy, 5'11", 200 pounds. He's not 6'2", 200 or 6'1" and longer like Hunter. Likes to reach when he's countered by a receiver. He likes to put that hand out there and, going to have to become real technical with that because that's going to get you your holds and your interference calls. Is he destined to be a slot corner? Probably. Nothing wrong with that. As long as you're one of the best ones.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And Barron's got I would say a good shot of being a day one guy. I guess it depends on how specific teams with needs, what are they looking to address? But yeah, slot corner. No, I think he'll be starting on any team in the NFL. We haven't talked that deeply about it yet, but between us, but I see him as day one consideration for sure. No question.
If somebody feels he really can, play outside and leverage well enough and get him coached up for sure. Yep. Absolutely, he has all the skill level to do it.
All right, our number 4 prospect, Siobhan Rebel out of East Carolina, 6'3", 193-pound senior. Coach Siobhan Rebel Jr. is from Winston-Salem, North Carolina native. He transferred from Lewisburg College, a JUCO college, to East Carolina. Ran a 4.4 40, 11-foot flat broad jump. His wingspan is 6 feet 7 1/4 inches, so he's got some length there, being 6'3" corner and having a wingspan of a 6'7". Man, that's impressive. Worked midnights at Amazon warehouse as a JUCO player through college. Got to like that. 2-time All-AAC player for East Carolina. He had 16 career pass breakups, and the quarterback rating against him in 2024 before his knee injury was only 48.8. Coach Siobhan Rebel Jr. is a talented player. What do you like about him?
I mean, he is like X-receiver length playing corner.
Yeah.
He has 6'3", 195, 200-pound guy. Extremely, it's just he's and his athleticism it's the same as an X-receiver. He just got great length and athleticism. Throughout his career, and you have to, if you play JUCO football, you're going to be out there a lot doing other things. And among those things are special teams, and he was outstanding in a lot of different phases. He only missed 5% of his tackles in his career. He's got a very low whiff rate. So this is a good football player, good tackler. He's a good run stopper. And the longer, leaner corners typically are man cover only types, and you want to get them off the field if you're knowing we got run. Not Siobhan Rebel. He can play the run. We've got a real good football head on his shoulders. He's a good football IQ kid, just like a lot of these guys that we've talked about here. Can be a good communicator, understands in and out of different coverage scheme. He is a fluid mover. He can really trigger from run to pass well, turn his hips, and make those kinds of things. So those are some things he's really shown, and he's got exceptional elite closing and recovery speed, which makes his tracking and recovery amazing. He's got those great long stride lengths. This is a guy that can stay super patient in man coverage and make a late decision and recover and be an effective disruptor on a pass or a play on the ball even. He disrupts passing lanes. He adds a lot of different dimensions, in ball tracking and ball disruption for a quarterback that a lot of other corners don't possess because of that athleticism and that length. But Drew, they're red flags. There are red flags, my friend. What are those?
Yeah, I think he's a day one talent, but he tore his left ACL in practice in September of 2024 last year. So we're only talking 6 months ago, right? So not going to be ready. He missed
kind of a JMO pick.
Yeah, exactly. Now, obviously, hey, fellas, remember he got drafted 12th overall. Yeah, he did.
And that could happen here too.
It could, because he's a talented player and he's got the size and length, man. And that's just, you can't coach that. That's there, and he's got it over everybody. But he missed a ton of draft prep. Major work in progress as far as being a zone coverage guy, cornerback goes. That will be a issue at least in the first half of this season. He's a bit of a riverboat gambler. I would think most great cornerbacks have that in them, but the great ones know, they know when to hold them and when to fold them, right, Coach? Just like a gambler should. Got to tip your cap to Kenny Rogers there, but yeah, he can be that way. He's drawn more pass interferences, PIs, than most of the other prospects. So a little clutchy and grabby as well. He's got to become more calculating, technical in both coverage schemes, and really has a bit of a physical recovery curve to go through on top of, this pro learning curve, and then to get pro strong. He's got a little ways to go. So I think that's what takes him out of day one, because a lot of that work has to be done, Coach. But your final thoughts before we go to the next, before we move on.
Well, he's just not going to be ready. He's just not. He's got some knee issues that he's got to work through. So that's just going to be, kind of in his way at first. But he still may go in the 20s somewhere because of his talent, and they know what they're going to get. And once they can get him physically rehabbed, they can also go through some of these technical issues and refine him some. So in year 2, you could have really what would be a top 5 or maybe even like number 1 overall type talent.
That's a great point. And it would have to be a team, that really doesn't have it's a good football team. They're lower in the draft, obviously, and they'll have, they want the best football player, and they can afford to do that. Yeah, absolutely. That could very much work in his favor. We got number 5, Coach.
Yeah, excuse me, Drew. We got number 5. We got another Ole Miss prospect. We've talked about a lot of Rebels too, out of Ole Miss, and the great St. Clair high school graduate and safeties analyst for Ole Miss and now Auburn, Buddy Broski. This is a guy that probably did some tutoring with Trey Amos at one point in time before he headed over to Auburn, Alabama. He's a 6'1", 190-pound senior. From New Iberia, Louisiana, and he had a very intrepid time through his college career, Drew. He started off at Louisiana for the Raging Cajuns over in Lafayette, Louisiana, then transferred over to Tuscaloosa, played a year for the Tide, then finished up down in Oxford, Mississippi, over at the Grove with the Rebels. So he played at 3 different schools, 4'4", 340, 10.6 broad jump. So very athletic kid, 59 career tackles, and 14 PBUs for the Raging Cajuns early on in his career. Played all 14 games at Alabama in 2023, and this past year it culminated in a 2024 All-American season for the Rebels of Ole Miss. Also was All SEC with the Rebels and had a 69.1 career quarterback rating against for a career between the 3 schools he played at. So Trey Amos is a well-traveled, seasoned veteran of college football, Drew.
Yeah, he certainly is. And there's a lot to like about his game, and I'll talk about that now. He's perhaps the top deep ball corner to go along with Travis Hunter in this draft. And he's a 50-50 ball winner. Very athletic guy, exceptional ball skills and ball tracker. And he's a press coverage technician. So again, another strong man coverage corner here. Elite closing speed. So he can gamble a little bit and make up for it. Like you talked about earlier, Coach, some of these guys, have that ability to do that. Not everyone does. But his recovery speed's phenomenal. He's a heavy hitter and a willing tackler. Very good. Mirrors and reads routes very well. Coach, Trey Amos's football IQ is outstanding, and his athleticism is too. Lot to like about his game. What do you see he needs to work on?
Well, he's a guy that can get over aggressive and vulnerable flags. He likes to be the guy on the other side of the road. If we're picturing an old Western in a duel with 2 guys, ready to fire their guns at each other in a duel, he likes to be that guy on the other side. He really enjoys it. But that also comes at a risk because those guys are awful comfortable, and they're also awful aggressive. And he can get a little clutchy and handsy. So, those are some things that, he's going to get dinged on a little bit at times. And he's also a guy that loves to run deep. He's very good downfield. The nuanced route runners are going to give him a little bit of a struggle at times, that fluid route running ability. 11.3% whiff rate isn't terrible, but that's got to get better. Because that's, if he's going to be a great deep ball guy, you got to be a great tackler to go along with it. You got to do 2 things really, really well. And he's a good tackler. Needs to become a good NFL pro tackler. That's that's going to be a point of pride for him. He can get awful comfortable in zone coverage and kind of peek things through. He is looking for where he can affect the ball And that sometimes can get you, can kind of get you into a blur. So those are some things in zone he's going to have to improve upon. He's much better at man at this point in his career. He's 6'1", 190. He's a good sized kid, but the bigger physical, receivers and players kind of bullied up on him a little bit. So, he can get hung up on blocks a little bit, and maybe some of the bigger receivers can kind of body him up. So like a Mike Evans, that could be a bit of a struggle for a guy like a Trey Amos, or maybe out of the gates, unless he plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next year. And it could happen. So he's got to become a better tackler. And like I said, we are putting some pressure and net picking on Trey Amos. It's what he does halfway decent. He's got to be great at it. He's got to be great at it because he likes to go downfield and cover the deep ball. If he can be a good, effective tackler against the run, these weaknesses aren't near as bad or as much of a thing as we're talking about. Gonna have to get his feet wet a little bit first. And you know what? You can only do that by playing. But, is this a guy that is going to be drafted, I think, on day 2? Yeah, I mean, he's another one that's going to be good. You could be talking about in the 30s somewhere, either the beginning of the 30s and the late ends of the first round or somewhere in the latter 30s, at the very beginning of the second. This is an exceptional football player that is going to get that opportunity because he's a veteran, really. You're getting a guy that's a competitive veteran coming into your franchise as a rookie. But he's got to get better as a tackler, and he's got to get better in zone coverage.
Yeah, you're right, Coach. And I think talent-wise, he's worthy of a day 1 pick, but it's going to depend on the teams and what their needs are, I think, more than that. So I think that probably puts him into day 2. But like you said, in the 30s, that could be maybe Philly, or it won't be Philly. I wouldn't think with what they did at cornerback as well. That the Lions were mirroring in last year's draft, going double corners, and it worked out for both teams. Who knows what Kansas City will do, right? So yeah, but Trey Amos is day 1 talent, but likely a day 2 pick, a higher day 2 pick, and very good player. I wouldn't cry if he was in Honolulu blue and silver. Put it that way. He's a good football player. Here we go at number 6. Our number 6 prospect coach is Maxwell Harrison out of UK, University of Kentucky. 6'1", 186-pound junior, and he is a native of West Bloomfield, Michigan. He played for Ron Bellamy at West Bloomfield High School, and by the way, he ran a 4.28 40 and a 1.5 10-yard split. Lightning fast, a 10.9 broad jump, athletic as hell, 2-time All-SEC player, 6 career INTs, 3 career defensive touchdowns, 26 career pass breakups, a career QB rating against of 88.1, which is pretty good. Maxwell Harrison, coach out of UK, very good football player. What do you like about him?
Well, that we featured that as a little bit of a coaching point here, that 881 QBR rating. Oh, the other, we're talking about guys that had in the 40s and the 50s. That's way higher. Well, he's perhaps the best zone corner in this draft. And zone guys, the balls get caught underneath on them. That's part of the deal there, and that's going to happen. And that's not a fault of his. It's almost kind of like ERA versus win-loss record in pitching. If you're on a bad team in 6-12, but you have a 3.43 ERA, you're still a heck of a pitcher. So that QBR against a zone cover corner is not nearly as big of a statistic, but still something worth of noting. He's a great processor in zone coverage. He's the best one in the draft. This is your best zone corner in the draft, and that's going to be that's recognized by the draft boards. Guaranteed, Maxwell Harrison is very, very high on several draft boards. A great communicator, you got to be if you're a zone corner. You're communicating across the coverage what we're doing and where we need to be and what we need to trigger on. He's got this great closing speed. You're talking about a 1.5 guy that can burst and get off and bolt and do some different things. But a 4.28, that's long speed to go all day long and closing and recovering. Recognizing triggers really well on routes. That's another thing that you have to be able to do and to be an elite zone cover guy. Very fluid movement skills. This is one of these, outstanding kind of football track type athletes, and just an outstanding mover and creative, fluid guy. Very physical at the point of contact. He's mean in contested areas. Another thing that you have to be, you're making plays on the ball all the time in zone. And, just a great ball tracker. 100% the best zone cover in this draft, Drew. He is not perfect, though. He is not perfect. Yeah, we love to talk about our guys. This is a native of the sports peninsula, but he's got some issues too.
Yeah, he's flat out's got to become a better tackler. Just out of the gate, got to be a better tackler. You see it on tape, and especially as a zone corner in the NFL, you're going to get eaten alive out there. You cannot miss tackles, and you got to have better technique. And so, is it coachable? Absolutely. Is he a willing student? I believe he is. But it's going to take a little time. So out of the gate, that's going to be an issue. A 17.8% whiff rate, and really it insulates his 2024 actual whiff rate, which was above 25%. So that was his career whiff rate. So he gambles a lot too, and at times, and then you got to watch that. And so he's got a very lean frame for the NFL. Got to put a little mass in there, and needs major refinement as a press man corner. So again, now he's at the opposite issue as everybody else, right? He's a zone master, but yeah, he's got to be able to play man as well. Now, what benefits him, Coach, I believe, is because a lot of the teams in the NFL play zone a lot more now than ever. I mean, the Lions are an exception. They're strictly man, pretty much. There not many teams do that now. But of course, you got to be able to play both. No question about that. He's way more comfortable and effective playing zone and man, as I talked about, and as Coach articulated with his strengths. He will guess and gamble a little bit, and again, that's where that whiff rate comes in. He's going to have to be more disciplined as a zone corner, as good as he is in that capacity. He needs to get pro strong. Like I said, he's got a lean frame. He's got to put on some mass there, not the expense of the speed. Is he scheme specific? That's the big question, right, Coach? So I mean, talent wise and athletically, Maxwell Harrison's a first round talent, but there's a lot of questions here, and I think that cements him into day two. But your thoughts on that before we move on?
Yeah, and with all due respect to our remaining prospects, so we don't want to short out in our limited time here. This is a day two prospect because he's got such a catch up to do with his man capability and his press man capability. He's got some tackling concerns. This is a kid that's going to be a great zone corner for you and a special teams contributor, and has the ceiling to be an every down guy and maybe even a Pro Bowler, given if you are that, type of a zone cover, type defensive scheme. I'm a big Max Harrison fan. I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, he's a very good football player. Yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing him in the NFL. Like that UK's putting out some more. They seem to be always constantly putting out talent. We've covered a few Wildcats this year. So
even if they go to Orchard Lake Road to get it.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, let's talk about our number 7 prospect, Coach.
Our number 7 guy is Benjamin Morrison, a 6', 190-pound junior out of the University of Notre Dame down in South Bend, almost in the Sports Peninsula. We're almost talking about another local by about 1 mile. Niles, Michigan's just above him. Phoenix, Arizona native. He's one of 5 kids to play D1 athletics. So this is a very talented athletic family. 4'3", 940. He was a captain this year for the Fighting Irish. He was a 2022 freshman All-American. We've talked about a ton of 2022 freshman All-American players in this draft. Benjamin Morrison's yet another. 9 career picks, 18 career PBUs, 27 career passes defended. So if you want to combine those total between PBUs and passes defended successfully, he's at 45. So that's a very high level. 49.5 career quarterback rating against. So yeah, he's done pretty well in man coverage for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, Drew.
Yeah, he certainly has, and we like a lot of things about his game. He's a lineman. He's a lineman and scheme versatile cornerback, which is obviously we've talked about guys. We just talked about Harrison. He's a zone guy, and strictly a zone guy right now. Morrison more versatile in that respect. Bursty and twitchy at the line of scrimmage. That's very important. It's going to serve him well in the NFL. Excellent route recognition and trigger. He's a great leverage cornerback. He has strong press man skills. He's a really hard physical player to play against as a defensive back. He's physical and really a looming zone defender. So you got to like that when you're having receivers hear footsteps when you're around. That's a great thing for a corner. Excellent ball skills. And coach, he's very adept as a ball tracker. Benjamin Morrison has a lot of positives in his game. What does he need to work on? Or what are they
probably be bumped up a little bit? Probably be bumped up a little bit from our research and how we tabulate our ranked players, based off of his lack of games this year. He got hurt. He had to have hip surgery this year, so and that limited his time. And what he did show prior to injury is, again, another guy that's very dependent on Benjamin Morrison and not as technical as he needs to be. That's going to change at the NFL level. Guesses and gambles too much on routes. And those are things that are going to become better as he becomes a pro. Not real big, 6 foot, 190 pounder, 16.2 whiff rate, presents some tackling concerns. We've got some guys that are in a much bigger area of improvement than Benjamin Morrison as a tackle, but he is also a guy that's got to improve his tackling ability. Gets hung up on blocks in the run phase. Those are things that are a no-no. Will his hip impact him? He's going to need a little physical acclimation period here too. So he's not going to be quite ready, I think. So that probably is a reason why he's a little bit pegged further down. Still in the day 2 here, Drew. This is still a day 2 draft pick. This is a good football pick and a good investment for a franchise.
Completely agree with that assessment, Coach. Definitely rock solid day 2, likely round 2 guy for sure. But lot of upside to Benjamin Morrison. Our number 8 wide receiver prospect, Azaria Thomas, out of Florida State University, 6'2", 198 cornerback. Excuse me, I said wide receiver. Cornerback out of Florida State, 6'2", 198-pound junior. He's from Niceville, Florida, so he stayed closer to home. 4-star prospect, recruited on both offense and defense in high school. He's an all-ACC player, 15 career PBUs, 9 career total passes for tackles for loss, an 86.2 career QB rating against a 50.2 QB R rating against last season. So he really took a significant step forward in this past season. And that's why we're talking about him right now in our top 8, Coach. What do you like about Azaria Thomas?
He's, and again, this is a guy that probably knows pretty well in zone as well. So, but was he, you talk about him, he looks like a wide receiver, Drew. He's 6'2", 198 pounds.
Yeah, I know.
Long, lean, twitchy athlete. He's got receiver athletic ability, and he was recruited as a wide receiver. So Azaria Thomas is a wide receiver. He's a wide receiver, wide receiver's body playing cornerback by position. Big time special teams guy, and that's going to be really helpful to him getting on the field and locking down playing time initially in the NFL. Another great route recognizer. Very tough against the run. He's a 9.6 whiff rating, and we whiff rating can also be talked about as a missed tackle rating or rate. So he's a good tackler. If you're underneath the 10% in that area, you're a good tackler. Strong press man coverage skills. He's a great mirror, so he stays right on top of you and is fluid and a fluid mover that way. Patient and technical with his hands and press. So, he does not get flagged. He's very good. He's got some good reach, too, to maintain leverage. Very fluid in his movement skills. Excellent at leveraging the sideline. So this is a guy that can do that quite well. Real talented athlete, Drew. Azaria Thomas has got some things, though, we got to work on, too.
Yeah, he can get over aggressive, and that's a typical trait in a lot of corners. So he's got to watch that, temper that a little bit. He's more of a disruptor than a producer against the pass, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it also isn't going to get you
off corner.
Yeah, exactly. You must become a pro taskmaster in press man coverage. He's got to just make that his bread and butter. It is his bread and butter. He just got to become, like I said, a taskmaster in it. Grabs and clutches too much in recovering downfield. That's a concern. So he's very patient and technical, and he was able to, keep a lot of the flags away, which is a great thing. However, he's gonna get burned a lot. He's gonna see a lot of yellow hankies if he's doing that in the NFL. He needs to become a pro tackler. He needs to become pro strong. He's likely gonna need an acclimation period, but he will contribute right away on special teams. I believe in within 2 seasons, he'll be a very solid starter. I think he's a very safe pick, Coach, but that likely get you on day 2, late day 2, probably.
Yeah, he's going to factor into day 2, and he's got day 1 athletic ability, and people see an off corner that they can train and teach to be a better press man player. And with all that he can bring to the table and special teams, Zaria Thomas is going to be a heck of a pro somewhere, man. He's going to be real. He's going to be real good, and he's a worthy investment on day 2.
Yeah, no question about that. Outstanding football player. I'll start with the dark horses today. We got Noah Williams, Coach, the corner out of Cal, 6'1", 200-pound senior, Oxnard, California native. He was a transfer from UNLV, so he went back home, didn't go too far away at UNLV, came back home, went to Cal, successful punt and kick returner for the Rebels and the Golden Bears, all Mountain West for the Rebels, all Pac-12 in 2023 for Cal, and also all ACC for them in 2024. 200-plus career tackles, 38 pass breakups and 14 career interceptions, and only a 68.9 career QBR against him, Coach. Very, very good cornerback. What I really like is that he was all conference in 3 different conferences for 2 different schools. He's an elite talent. He's got tremendous acumen for making the big play. He's a very good kick returner and punt returner, and special teams contributor. He is scheme versatile. What does he need to work on? He needs some technical refinement and press man coverage. He's an up and down tackler. For as much of a playmaker as he is, he doesn't really have tremendous speed. He's not slow, but he doesn't wow you with the speed. But man, Coach, just a lot to like about Noah Williams.
Yeah, he's just not as skillsy as maybe some of the other guys. That's going to get him in the day 3. But he does. He's got great skill. He's in a kick returner, a punt returner. No, Williams, that's a great pick, Drew, as a dark horse. He's getting picked, and he's going to be on a 53-man roster.
Yeah,
contributing next year in 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. Who do you got, Coach?
Well, we're going to go down to Columbus. There's a lot of different guys we could have went with here, but we're going to go with Denzel Burke out of Ohio State, 6'1", 193-pound senior. Phoenix, Arizona native. He's played 51 career games for the Buckeyes. He's stuck around, and those who stay will be champions. That's the Michigan coach, former offensive line coach at Ohio State, Bo Schembechler's statement with the Wolverines. He was a national champion this past year. 4-time All Big Ten player. 4-time. 2023 All-American. Had he left last year, we're talking about a day 1 pick probably. 2021 freshman All-American. 143 career tackles, 4 career picks, 31 career PBUs, and a 91.3 career quarterback rating against. First strength, excellent in zone coverage. So that 91.3 is not near as a concern. He's a great zone corner. Probably second in this draft next to Mr. Harrison from Kentucky. Tremendous run supporter. So he does that a little bit better, I think, than maybe Max Harrison. And a phenomenal special teams player. So Denzel Burke is a high-level contributor. He's a better disruptor than a playmaker. He's an off corner. He's going to be an off corner in the NFL. And he's much better at zone than he is at man at this point in time. And again, he's of the same physical frame as Max Harrison. And he's very, very similar in many ways. But he's a little bit more linear. He doesn't quite move the same as Max Harrison. He's a little bit more linear in his movement. So real fluid route runners might have a little bit of a way with him. But Denzel Burke is a guy with an extra pick. I think he's going in round 4, and maybe even in round 3 on day 2. This would be a guy that I think could really round out a team and make a cornerback room and a defense and a special teams group even richer. I'm a Denzel Burke fan, Drew.
Yeah, when you mentioned possibly a day 3, round 4 guy, I always think of Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's a
D-back version of it.
Absolutely, and that's what I'm talking about. I mean, he would be absolute gold to get late in round 3 or early round 4. Absolute gold if you're a quarterback or cornerback needy. Coach, any final thoughts on this to wrap this up?
Yeah, there are a lot of other good players out there too in this position group. And after I talking about it, Drew, I guess my juice is flowing a little bit. I still think we're okay. Although if we drafted one of these players, I'd be real happy.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, really blessed to be doing this with you, brother. Been doing this for a lot more years. We're going into year 8 coming up here. I cannot wait. But we got a couple position groups to cover so far, so don't forget to keep tuning in. Check us out on the ESEN network on our Roku channel every Saturday night at 7 p.m. For Coach Andy Shield, I'm Drew. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon. This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Follow us on YouTube so you don't miss an episode at the Sports Peninsula Podcast. You can also follow us on Twitter X. Just look for @SportsP Podcast, and follow us to keep up on sports around the great state of Michigan and beyond. You can also catch our show every Saturday night at 7 p.m. on the ESEN Network channel as part of Roku. When you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one Sports Peninsula Podcast.